The last bill that we're going to hear is 5076. That would require principal of each school to provide an annual report with the number of graduating students and the number applying for admission to college or vocational training. The report would also include, and this was my main concern, the number of students applying for federal financial aid and provide an aggregated data on race and sex of those students. Last year with COVID, the number of minority students nationally that filled out FAFSA forms declined by over 20%, with the largest decline of approximately 28% with African American high school students. Why is this important? It is important because the Speaker and Senate President just came out in support of continuing and making the Promise program permanent. If our students do not fill out FAFSA forms, they are ineligible for the Promise program. And we, as elected representatives, should be able to look at this data and immediately send up red flags that we have a problem when we see a cohort, and especially a cohort of our minority students who are not filling out this form, and FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. We have to make sure our students are filling out this federal form, otherwise they are ineligible for probably one of the most important programs that can be offered for them. And it looks like the Promise program is going to go forward. So it's simple, but it gives us the information that we need to work decisively to help those students. Any questions? Yes, Representative Phillips.
Jim, just for clarification, I'm just reading the bill itself again, and you say each school, is it just high schools and career and tech centers? Because it doesn't specify anywhere in the bill.
Yeah.
It could be elementary and middle school too.
No, it would be, you fill out the form in high school,
Okay.
because it's a form for post-secondary education opportunities.
That was my assumption, but I don't see any place in the bill where it says specifically high schools and not middle schools.
Yeah, it wouldn't be offered in, it'd be just middle schools, no, high schools, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Any further questions? Yes, Representative Fenton Fung, all the way from Cranston.
Thank you again, Chairman. So kind of going on an earlier point that I brought up, the bill is perfect. I think it can help us identify a lot of problem areas we can target. One of the other things I'd be interested to know is the kids who didn't fill it out, what is the native language of their families or parents especially? Because right now the FAFSA, as I was checking online, it only is available in English and Spanish. So it'd be interesting to see if there were certain languages that were falling through the cracks that we could help identify.
Yeah. I would think, Representative, with the 28% decline nationally of African Americans, the largest decline, you know, when we're speaking about really addressing equity issues in education, that, you know, it's something that we should signal. And very often, you know, we don't have our forms translated. I know that, you know, we have a large Cape Verdean population, and especially, I know that we do in Pawtucket and in Providence. So there are a lot of language, folks from Senegal. So you are right. We should make sure that every student has access to, you know, a form that he can take home. And I also think in filling out these forms, it really reflects on the work that guidance counselors do. And according to Kids Count, our guidance counselors have on average about 40% more students than is recommended by national standards. So these forms take some work and good communication with parents to fill out. So that's one of the reasons it's so important. So you're right, language is something, we should definitely look into.
I appreciate that, Chairman.
Any further questions? Well, thank you very much for everyone on the committee. And before we go, I just want to recognize.
Chairman, can I just I have a probably question and some clarifying
Yes.
question from you.
Representative Bia, welcome. Please proceed.
Yeah, so we're in regards, this is a good bill, but in regards to like every high school principal, so now the question lies is, who's the high school principal is going to be submitting these yearly documents to? So that's what I can know. So
Yeah.
Every high school principal or like every district should be reporting it. Then at least those high schools within the district report to the district, and the district report to whatever committee.
Right. Representative, I believe it would have to be broken down. You would turn that data into your district, but I believe it would be most beneficial if it was broken down by schools. It would help the district, and I would venture to guess that, and I haven't examined this, but just based on student populations in, say, Providence, I would venture to guess that classical would have probably the highest percentage of students that filled out the FAFSA form. And that information, I think, will be very important. And it's important for administrators like yourself, Representative, because you can go to your superintendent and say, my students have this difficulty filling out this form. It's complex. I need another guidance counselor. And I know that you're a great advocate for your students.
Yeah, and which is good, and it just streamlined the process, like just reporting to the district, and then the district report that to what our intent is. That's one. But another thing is where I just want to bring this to our attention is, so 2 years ago, Providence High School in Providence was were recognized by being the second high school in the state with the highest completion of FAFSA rate, right?
Wow.
Yes. But now coming to this year, so based on the population that we have in the city, right?
Yes.
So I would just give you some data points. Talking about 7 to 30, 60%, 60 to 40%, give or take. That's the ratio. So most of my students are within a given building. Like in my building, it's like are those kids that we call newcomers. Newcomers are kids that basically are undocumented, right? So once those kids matriculate and probably get to that, like juniors and seniors, the percentage of those kids they're not filling the FAFSA right there automatically based on their status.
Right.
So now for the Promise program, so now that's my clarity that I want to ask you, because it's going to fluctuate in Providence based on like the year. Some years you have like group of kids going and completing FAFSA, and some year you will have like currently right now. So last year I was up in 2 years ago, up in the 80th percentile, close to 90%. This year I'm like about 33% because of the cohort of kids that we have right now. So only 33% of my kids have completed FAFSA thus far, which I know my projection right now, I think I probably might be hitting about 45, 50, but I'm not going to hit about 85, 90% based on,
Wow.
yes, based on the student that we have right now, because from newcomer, the title change to ESL kids based on the immigration status. And if the Promise program is like, is it affecting them, it's not affecting them, that's another clarity that I just want us just to have like an open mind when we're discussing these things.
Yes, Representative Baya, I think that's something that we should look into, especially with the Promise program, that requirement, because you're right, there are students that will not be, there's a cohort of students that could possibly not be eligible to fill out a FAFSA form. Is that correct?
That's correct. So automatically it's going to affect that high school because of it, because of the core of a case that they have. But from statewide and everyone else don't know the intricate parts about that. They say, well, this school has a very low percentage completion of FAFSA rate, but not knowing the students population that we have.
Got it. So you'd be concerned that people would have perceived, the perception of schools with a low FAFSA would reflect negatively. And I think as long as people are aware of the fact that you have that number of newcomers, I know when I was at Shea High School for the 22 years that I was there, we would have at times large influx depending on what was happening internationally into the school. So you do end up with these cohorts of students that are undocumented. A good point, but Representative, we should really work on making sure that those students are eligible for the Promise program. That may be a good bill. If you put it in, I'll co-sponsor it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Good point. Great. Are there any further questions? Well, with that, I would like to thank Representative Byer. Thank you for coming in remotely. Representative Giraldo all the way from Central Falls. Hope things are a little bit better there. Representative Norrie, thank you very much. You have Coventry and some of West Warwick. Very good. And Representative Alzate from the great city of Pawtucket. Representative Amore, just back from East Providence. He's building a new high school out there. How's the school going, Representative? Is the Amore wing finished yet?
I hope not. That
My
might
name
suggest
is,
I'm no longer there.
Joe McNamara, Warwick and Cranston. I'd like to recognize Dr. Showcroft, Representative Dr. Showcroft Smith and she is a professional educator and the owner of Dr. Daycare. And she said the little kids are all doing great during this. They're doing wonderful, better than we are. And Representative Barrows of Pawtucket is here, our vice chair, and looking very spry. And and then we have Representative Phillips, who has Woonsocket and part of Cumberland as well, all the way from Woonsocket. We are also joined virtually by my fellow Pilgrim High School alumnus, Representative Caldwell of East Greenwich. Representative Sue Donovan usually comes to the State House in her yacht from Bristol, but that's put up today. Representative Kislak is joining us from the fashionable East Side. Thank you for coming in virtually. And from Weston Cranston, we have Representative Fenton Fung. And Representative Fenton Fung, how is the mayor doing? Is he better? I know he's doing much better.
He's doing much better. He's out causing trouble right now. I kicked him out.
Oh, good. Please tell him that I was asking for him.
Thank you
So
so
I
much.
think I have everything, and Representative Byer broadcasting live from Providence. So good to have a high school principal on our committee. So that's just wonderful. It's a great committee, and I think good. And Sherry Roberts was unable to make it today, but she's a valued member of the committee. And of course, last but far from least, Representative Ranglin Vassal and her co-star today, who added a little fun, there he is, to our committee meeting. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion is made and seconded. The House Committee on Education is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.